Heyo, nerds, how you doing today? What's up, people? What's going on? Welcome back to more esports talk, and of course, we're talking about it yet again. Shroud has now doubled down on two different takes. One we covered about a month ago, and now this one, guys, when it comes time for mouse and keyboard versus controllers, Shroud has now doubled down, at first saying in esports in general, these two should not compete against each other. Then I'll show you guys his most recent statement, which I think paints a pretty clear picture, but still a very debatable topic out there. Do not get me wrong. You guys can always leave your thoughts and comments down below, as Shroud now goes on to state, whenever there is competition for money or prizes of any sort, these two should not exist or compete against each other.
No random schmuck can just pick up a mouse and keyboard and do somewhat well. They're going to suck, and they're going to suck a lot. But if you grab like a controller, there is a chance that it'll kind of just assist you in some situations, you know? So that's the whole point of it. I mean, I don't mind it.
I mean, I get it. I think it's the strength of it.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I think it's really cool that this game is crossplay. I love it. But I've always been like this, and I've always said there shouldn't be aim assist or controllers or whatever in tournaments. Like, you shouldn't mix it. Either you go only controller or you go only PC. Dude, I don't know how people don't understand that concept. It's so simple. It's really, really simple what the issue is with aim assist, right? Every single player, console or PC, that is competing for money has the right to complain and has the right to argue. They're totally in the right to be mad, right? Because there's advantages to both controller and PC, right? Mouse and keyboard and controller. There's advantages to both, right? The fact that there's an advantage of controller versus mouse and keyboard, and the other way around, mouse and keyboard has an advantage over controller. The fact that those two things exist and both can have advantages towards one of another makes no sense that it's even in place to have any sort of competition for money at all. The whole point of competition is like fair play, you know, competitive integrity, right? So if a mouse and keyboard isn't fair against a controller, or vice versa, because they both have their pros and cons, they shouldn't exist in the same world. It's really that simple. The fact that people are arguing against any of that is crazy to me. There's no way anyone can argue against it. You just can't. There's no argument there. Zero. Some people would probably go with the argument like, yeah, well, one is more of an advantage than the other. It doesn't matter. The fact that there is an advantage at all for both ways is a problem. So it shouldn't exist, right? Doesn't matter what has more of an advantage or what doesn't. Would you just separate the competition between controller and mouse and keyboard? Exactly. That's really that simple. When you're not playing for money, it doesn't matter. When there's nothing on the line and you're just playing for fun, who the fuck cares? But when there's thousands, hundreds, millions of dollars on the line, your goal is to create a fair playing field, as fair as possible. So you cannot have those two worlds coexist, because there's advantages and pros and cons to both of them, not just one. The argument here isn't that controller's better. The argument is that both have their pros and cons, so they shouldn't exist. Because, like, what is that? That's just like, hello?
And just like before, guys, you know, usually whenever we have a mouse and keyboard versus a controller, obviously there are, like Shroud said, there are definitely advantages to both those different pieces. And clearly that no games out there have balanced them perfectly. And until then, I think Shroud makes a great cop-out point. Whenever these debates come up, I usually just say, I'll take Shroud's stance. Because when you come down to actually breaking it down game by game, mouse and keyboard versus controller in each individual game out there, each game is trying its best. I would say most predominantly, we have Call of Duty, especially with Warzone, and then Fortnite, and maybe Apex Legends as well, all three of which we have seen a rise in controller results, and certainly, especially when it comes to Fortnite, some would say controller domination with how strong the aim assist is, despite there maybe being changes underway currently or coming again sometime soon. When you look at most recent results out there, Apex has seen a rise of better results for controller players. Warzone events have been dominated by controller players, but keep in mind, a bit of an asterisk there because also Warzone events have been dominated by controller players who are also Call of Duty Pro players or former Call of Duty Pro players. So a bit of a mislapse there. On top of that, though, I think Fortnite most recently, especially with FNCS, we saw those results. We saw those qualifiers dominated by controller players, at least in some regions, which, by the way, we look towards last World Cup when there were 0 controller players at all. We have certainly seen a gigantic rise or at least betterment of results for controller players. And so I do think when it comes time for money, especially a lot of money being on the line, Shroud makes a great point. Can these two compete against each other? But then let's flip that coin over. Obviously, because of the gigantic player bases of both mouse and keys and controller, any game out there who can try and figure it out or at least allow them to compete is probably better off, you know? What are they to do? Are they completely separate these two and that would probably hinder or hurt the game itself? Yeah, when it comes time for casual player base, like Shroud also says, it does not matter. When it comes time for big money events that Fortnite is known for, like, what does Epic Games do then? Because by separating these two groups, you hurt battle royales and you especially hurt your game competitively. And so it's so debatable, right? Like, what do you do? I do admit, though, that a lot of battle royales, and like I just mentioned, those 3 titles and any more that come out, they're making progressive moves, right? I think Fortnite has definitely made some great strides forward in trying to balance. Keyword on trying. As of late, it's gotten even worse, and even controller players will admit that aim assist has been pretty strong. But eventually, if a game ever does figure it out, I think Shroud would change his stance and say, if they can somehow balance these 2 separate pieces of technology, we would then have one of the biggest games in the entire world, like Fortnite has been and was for a long, long time. So what do you guys think about this? Shroud has now doubled down when it comes time for competition, competing for prizes, money, or prize pools. Mouse and keyboard and controller players should not be lined up against each other. What do you think? Until next time, drink your water, drink your coffee. I'll see you guys back here sometime soon.